Hello and welcome to Sengan-en, the home of the Shimazu clan right here in Kagoshima, Japan. Thanks for joining us today for this world-exclusive virtual tour of original artwork from the series Drifters, a tour of the house here at Sengan-en, and a demonstration of authentic samurai swordsmanship. Today we're here in Ekkenoma, the reception room, where visitors would pay greetings to the head of the Shimazu clan, the highest status room in the whole of Kagoshima. I'm your host, Alex Bradshaw, 15-year resident of Kagoshima and samurai culture enthusiast. I'm also joined by historian, curator, subculture expert, and the man behind this whole event, Iwakawa Takuo.
岩川です。よろしくお願いします。この鹿児島、日本の一番南の一番最上級の場所で、古武術とこの景色と、そして、最前線の漫画文化をご紹介していきたいと思いますので、よろしくお願いします。
Okay, thank you for joining us right down here in the very, very south of Japan for this excellent demonstration of swordsmanship, then some Japanese manga, and also a tour of the house as well. So without further ado, let's get started with the demonstration of authentic samurai swordsmanship. Taisharyu and jigen-ryu, both are mentioned in Drifters and were practiced by the Shimazu clan. This is the first time that these two schools have demonstrated together in 416 years. These schools have both been passed down unchanged for over 400 years from the time of the samurai until the present day. So first, let's have a quick look at the event that took place at the shrine next to Sengan this morning. So let's have a look.
かしこみかしこみもまを咲くこの年わしも家にさ吉野様ご起立ください。ご関係の方、ご起立の上、ご同杯ください。ご関係の方、ご起立の上、ご同杯ください。
Okay, so what we're going to do next is have a quick look at Taisharyu. So we've welcomed Yamamoto Takahiro sensei, who's a master of the Taisharyu, to talk about the school he practices. Taisharyu was founded by a samurai of the Sagara clan called Marume Kurando some 450 years ago. Marume learned Shinkage-ryu in Kyoto, demonstrating before the Ashikaga shogun, and then following the death of his teacher, created a school called Taisharyu, which has been passed down to the present day in the Hitoyoshi-kuma region of Kumamoto, where Marume spent his later years. So, thank you for joining us today, Yamamoto sensei. 哲学の、タイシャリューの哲学について、ちょっと簡単に紹介していただけますか。
タイシャリューっていうのは漢字でなくてカタカナでタイっていう字を書きます。で、これはですね、タイっていういろんな漢字を当てはめるためです。例えば体を捨てる、下がることを捨てる、対峙することを捨てる、いろんなことを捨てる。で、捨てるっていうのが本当にただ捨てるっていう意味ではなく、何も考えずに感じて動くっていう自然体っていう意味になります。はい、そこでその自然っていうものっていうのはとても美しいものです。で、美しくて同時に、例えば最近災害とかたくさんありますけど、同時にものすごく怖くて強いものです。で、その両方を合わせ持つ自然、それをですね、タイシャ流っていうその流派名の中に入ってて、自然を目指すっていうふうに、シソマルネブランドからの教えがあります。はい。
So taisha-ryu is unusually written with the katakana script instead of using kanji. So the katakana for tai can stand in for several different kanji. For example, the kanji for weight, for body, to oppose or to retreat. So the word sha steru means to throw away or to discard. So this can be taken to mean to discard reliance on the body, to discard waiting, to discard opposition, and to discard retreating as well. But it doesn't just mean to throw away. It also means just to move with the natural body without thinking. Nature, for example, such as mountains, seas, and the sky are very beautiful to look at and have a calming effect on us. But at the same time, typhoons, tsunami, landslides have terrifying power that man can't stop. And the aim of taisha-ryu is to be like nature and move like nature as well. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the taisha-ryu demonstration from earlier today. And Yamamoto Shihama will also give us some comments about it while we watch the video. 簡単に解説お願いします。
これは大立ちの型になります。木刀ですね。木剣を使った大立ちの型。これが今現存しているのが全部大立ち小立ちで18本あります。でそれは始祖丸めクランドの時から形を変えずですね、用途を守りながらずっと稽古ために。
So these are called the Odachi no kata, and there are 18 of them altogether. There's also long sword and short sword. And these kata, these techniques have been passed down from the founder, Marume Kurando, all the way till the present generation of students of Taisharyu. The next is Kodachi, the short sword. The samurai wore two swords, this is the shorter one. Yup!
印を考えるっていう意味があるんですけど、スタディでは。だから、始祖丸めクランドとずっと歴代の宗家が守られてきた印の教えを考えて、で、今、それから今から未来ですね、を照らすために、
So the word for practice in Japanese is usually keiko, but the actual meaning of the word keiko is to look back at the old and to respect the old as well. So by studying the lessons of the ancestors that taught these techniques through the years, they can also look towards a bright future as well through learning these techniques and teachings that have been passed down through history. So, 目を攻めるっていうところですね。
はい。珍しいの特徴でもあるんですけど、刀を扱うだけじゃなくて、その中に結ぶ蹴る関節技、投げ技っていう体術も、ここはちょっと大将の特徴。
So we just saw before that the left-hand side, the student practicing the techniques attack the eyes of the opponent, which is quite an unusual thing for most schools of swordsmanship. But in Taisharyu, there are kicks, there are throws, there are joint blocks, and many other techniques like that which aren't found in other schools. It makes it quite unique in Koryu Kenjutsu. For this technique, there's also a kick involved in it. これはまあ、道で出会ったっていうような立場っていう。
組立ちっていうんですけど、まあ時代的に考えてみたら、やっぱり古流っていうものは、今でこそ古流であって、その時代はやっぱりその時代のものっていうのがあるわけです。で、時代に合わせて、その戦いがあった時代、侍がいた時代っていうのは変わってきているものもあると思う。さっきの大立ちの方、小立ちの方は始祖丸めブランドからなんですけど、この刀を使ったこの組み立ちはすれ違い玉の攻防。まあ、先生とかからの話によると、 幕末の頃の総兵団、その暗殺とかそういうのがあってた頃。
なるほど。
はい。
So these traditional techniques in taisha-ryu have been passed down unchanged from the founder until today, but during those times, the needs of the samurai changed. So the first techniques we saw with the wooden swords were passed down from the founder, Marume Kurando, who was around when the samurai were fighting on the battlefield. The techniques we're seeing now were made later in the school's history when the samurai were walking around town, walking, out in the open with their swords in their belt, and they might be attacked from behind or, surprised by somebody as well. So the school has changed over the years to meet the needs of the times as well.これは柔術的な
そうですね。
動きがありますね。
サブミッションで関節を決めて、相手を投げてるんではなくて、関節を決めるっていうので、相手がもうこのままおられるってことで、これを作る。
わかりました。So this is actually a joint lock technique rather than a throw, and the opponent, rolls out of the way of that to prevent themselves being injured. 最初には拳法っていう考え方。So the thinking behind Taisharyu is to try and let the opponent live if possible. If the opponent's not going to put themselves in a position where they need to be finished off, then to protect life as well. Okay, that brings us to the end of the Taisharyu demonstration. Yamamoto Sensei, thank you for joining us today. Next, we've got a demonstration from Jigen-ryu, a school of swordsmanship that's been practiced here in Kagoshima since the Edo period. So Jigen-ryu was founded in 1604 by the samurai Togo Chui, who was a samurai of the Shimazu clan. He went up to Kyoto with his lord, where he met a Buddhist monk by the name of Zenkichi, who taught a school called Tenshin-sho Jigen-ryu. After learning Tenshin-sho Jigen-ryu, Chui came back to Kagoshima and participated in 46 duels, all of which he won. And then he was promoted to the educator of swordsmanship for the Satsuma domain after defeating their fencing instructor. That was 416 years ago. Today we have Arimura Hiroyasu, who is the Kancho, the museum director of the Jigen-ryu Swordsmanship Museum here in Kagoshima. And he's been practicing this school of martial arts for well over 40 years. So, Arimura Sensei, Jigen-ryu について、その哲学についてちょっと簡単に説明お願いできますか。
一番端的に言えるのは、結局今までの戦技、いわゆる剣術が戦う技ということで、力で抑え込むという時代から、いわゆる、後に、いわゆる指導精神といいますか、そういう真の人間作り、侍の品格作りを作り上げていった剣術だということが一番のポイントだと思いますね。
So basically, swordsmanship was originally obviously about fighting on the battlefield and defeating enemies and things like that. But as Japan moved in towards the Edo period, the Tokugawa era, era of peace, swordsmanship needed to shift its focus, and it became more about creating decent individuals, moral individuals, who would train themselves hard and be good citizens as well. So that's really the basis behind this school, Jigen-ryu. And also, I imagine Taisharyu as well. It's to create decent human beings. That's the idea of this practice. So we're going to have a quick look at the demonstration of Jigenu from earlier on today, with some comments from Arimura Sensei as well.
これが一番の基本稽古で縦木打ちという。
So this is the
基礎トレーニング。
This is the most basic practice in Jigenu called tategi uchi. かつてはいわゆる武器を約1万回着火口として、それはただ単に技をこの動きに立ち上げて有機そういったものがそういったものを保つそういったことを表れるそういったことを The tategi uchi, the basic practice is striking the tree in the ground there on both sides. It's not only to strengthen the technique and the physical fitness of the person that practices, but also their mental state as well. So the school's name Jigen itself means revelation of transcendental power, and it kind of brings out your own ability and power through this hard training. So this technique is actually against multiple opponents, not just one person. In practice, we do it against one person, but it's cutting down several opponents in a row. This isn't just about fighting, though. It's also about your determination to go forwards and keep trying as well. And that builds up the kind of mentality that's required of students as you get. So it's not just pattern practice where everything's pre-decided. It's as if you're doing it almost for the first time and just go forward, and attack continuously, whatever you're doing. It effectively blends into daily life as well, and your mentality, doing things at work or whatever, to go forward and challenge all the time. 最初の一瞬でこういったものだけと簡単そうにあまり他のリーファメーターたくさんのそういう方っていうのはないです。基本はやはりとにかく自分が相手の圧力に負けずによりいち早く攻めていくということをダウンしなければいけない。そして究極はですね、つまり武器を使わなくても相手が同じようになられるといった境地を養うそれにとってそれが切れる哲学でもある。Well, Jigenu doesn't have lots of different kata like many other schools do. It's a fairly simple curriculum comparatively, but that also makes it very difficult. The idea is to keep challenging and going forwards and redefining your own character to be a moral person. At the end of the day, you're not supposed to draw your sword at all. You're not supposed to create aggression against other people. You're supposed to be a kind of controlled and well-managed gentleman. So that's the meaning behind this kind of practice. 今は長い武器使ってますよね。これは槍とか薙刀とか。And now they're using a long weapon on the right-hand side here. So this is techniques against naginata, which is like a Japanese halberd, or yari, which is like a spear. So you can see that they press the attack and then finish off the opponent like that.
込んでください。それでは最後に。
So you react right at the very, very last minute, just as the weapon from the opponent comes before your eyes. Just then, in that moment, counter it and then finish them at the end.
今ご覧いただいているのが、そういった修行を重ねた後に、いわゆる何の技と入れる方位を持ったこれも一見、なんとなく約束稽古みたいに見えますけど、基本はですね、相手の一瞬の動きを防いで、今までは激しい攻めを戦っているんですけど、無声のうちに相手の動き、動物的な感覚ですね。そういったもので、攻める。
So this is the final level of the school, the Dan technique. This is what all the prior training leads up to. As you can see, there's no vocalization, there's no screaming with these techniques. They're the culmination of years and years of training to get to this stage. So it kind of looks like the pattern practice, but you actually react right at the very, very last minute in order to counter the opponent's technique. And through that, you gain spiritual and mental strength as well.
ひたすらこういった
So through this hard practice, we develop our characters. All right, so I'd like to say one last thank you to Arimura Sensei and Yamamoto Sensei from Jigenu and Taisharyu. 今日は416年ぶりにこういう共演ということで、どういう感想とか。
久方ぶりの冗談というか、今日は島津家のご当主にもご覧いただいて、大きな歴史をこの宣言自体も360年ですかね、たった時期に、再び合間にやることで、非常に光栄な機会だったと思います。
So we're very, very happy to be able to demonstrate with Taisharyu today. Actually, the head of the Shimazu family also came to watch the demonstration. So it was what's called a Joran Embu, it would have been called in the Edo period, where people come and demonstrate in front of the Lord himself. So it was a very historic occasion for that reason as well. Yamamoto Shihanはいかがですか？
そうですね。有村先生おっしゃる通りですね。私たちもとても光栄でした。それからですね、やっぱり流派っていうものが、例えば東方中医が大社流と天心書次元流を学ばれたようにですね、やっぱりどこかにつながりが流れっていうものがあります。だから私たちもですね、大社流として次元流を拝見させていただいて、とても勉強になりました。本当ありがとうございます。
So Yamamoto Shihan said that it's been a great experience demonstrating with the Jigenu. The founder of Jigenu, Togo Chui, also practiced Taisharyu as well. So it was great to see both schools together and we could learn from each other from that as well. Okay, right. Next, we're going to move on to a quick interview with the editor from Shonen Gahosha, who's going to come later on. Okay, first, we're going to have to... Oh, okay, no, he's turned up. Okay, so we've got the editor from Shonen Gahosha here to have a few words about the anime series Drifters with Iwakawa Takuo as well. こちらでどうぞ。
はい、どうも。
こんにちは。すみません。ちょっと実行を紹介させていただけますでしょうか。
はい。
どうぞ。
少年画報社で、漫画ドリフターズの担当編集と編集長をやっている筆谷と言います。よろしくお願いします。
So this is Mr. Fudetani. He's in charge of the manga version of Drifters at Shonen Gahosha. He's the editor for the series as well. So we want to ask him a few questions. If anybody's got a question they want to put into the chat window, you can feed it straight through to my earpiece and I can ask him directly. Drifters は世界的に非常に人気な漫画ですよね。
ありがとうございます。
で、今日は12カ国の方々が参加しているので、ドリフターズの次の漫画はいつ出てくるのかっていう質問がたくさんありましたので、それは答えられるでしょうかね。
まだ次のコミックスの半分ぐらいしか原稿が集まってなくて、でもうちょっと待ってください。で、次回の雑誌の連載の方もたった今電話があって、できたのでどこにファックスを送ればいいんですか 東京から来たのがまさに30秒ぐらい前。
Okay.
はい。
So I've just asked Mr. Furutani when the next episode of Drifters is coming out. He said the manga, the comic book itself, isn't finished yet, so please wait a little while. The serialized version of it in the magazine has just been finished. About 5 minutes ago, I had a phone call from Kouta Hirano saying that he's finished it, and where should he fax it to? So we've got some coming out soon, hopefully. Okay, so anime 版はどうですか？シリーズ2は
今制作中です。
はい、
セカンドシーズンは今16話までできてます。
はい。
でその先はもうちょっとお待ちください。
わかりました。So they finished up to episode 16 of series 2 of the anime of Drifters as well. And if you wait a little bit more, there should be some news about it coming up fairly soon, hopefully. Okay, so very happy to have that here. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Furutani? Okay, from Emily. Okay, so Emily, where are you from, Emily? Which country is she from? Okay, Emily says, thank you very much. Emily さんっていう方からも非常にありがとうございますということで、それだけ感謝を伝えたいということで。
ありがとうございます。
はい。Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay, 今、打ち込み中みたいですね。Okay, so if you want to type your questions into chat, I can ask them directly now. This is your only chance to do this because we've got to send Mr. Furutani on his way back to Tokyo, I'm afraid. So if you have anything you want to ask, you should ask right now. この島津家の5点でドリフターズの原画展するっていうのはどういう気持ちですか？漫画の会社としては。はい。
歴史ある島津の素晴らしい建物の中で漫画の原稿を展示していただけるなんて、もう鹿児島と島津の懐の広さに感謝と尊敬の念でいっぱいです。
わかりました。So to hold an exhibition like the Drifters original artwork event here in such a historic house, still owned and operated by the Shimazu family, is a huge, huge honor. And he's very, very thankful to the Shimazu family for allowing them to do this unique exhibition here. Actually, this is one of the only things that we've done from pop culture here, I think. ポップカルチャーとしてはこれだけですかね。
もう何度もしているというのは、
はい。
ドリフターズだけです。
はい。So Drifters is the only one that we've done continuously. Okay, some questions. Okay, go ahead. 上田さんっていう方からSengan-enにいていかがでしょうか？Sengan-enはどうですか今日？ちょっと一般。
桜島がすごいかっこよくて綺麗な。住みたいですね。
はい。Well, I said he'd like to live here because Sakurajima looks so wonderful from the garden. You'll see a little bit of that later on. We've had very good weather today, actually, for the Embu, the demonstration as well. Okay, okay, Oliver from the UK. Okay, イギリスのオリバーさんからドリフターズっていうシリーズで一番面白いとか興味深いところはどうですか？他の漫画と比べて。
他の漫画、とにかく出てくるやつらがかっこいい。
なるほど。はい。一番好きなキャラクターとかその中にありますか？
キャラクター一番の
トヨサ以外で。
トヨサ以外で。まだこれからの活躍をする菅野直し。
はい。So, he's very, very happy to work on Drifters because there are just so many cool characters. I mean, we've got like Shimadzu Toyohisa. We've got, who else have we got? We've got Oda Nobunaga. We've got Hidekata Toshizo. There's lots and lots of cool characters from Japanese history and foreign history as well. He says his favorite character is upcoming. Kanno. Okay, Kanno coming up as well. So yeah, a very interesting property to work on because there's so many cool characters in it. Okay, we've got time for one more question, very quickly if it's there. Okay. Cool. Okay, ジャスティンさんから島津家の古文書からちょっと出したものを漫画に利用されているでしょうかっていう質問。
いや、
So he's asking if any parts of the Shimazu historical records have been used in the creation of Drifters.
平野先生はもう誰でも手に入るような、その書物とか まあ、映画とか、まあ、いろんな小説から豊久とか他のキャラクターを作ってますので、なんか特別な古文書みたいなものはないと思います。あと一般人手に入らないです、そういうの。
なるほど。わかりました。So he said any characters that appear in Drifters, basically the artist is choosing things that most people would probably know about, they could find out and research on their own. Instead of using difficult kind of historical sources that people wouldn't know, it's easier to use things that, you know, people have a common ground and common knowledge of. Otherwise, it'd be too difficult to introduce in the manga. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, that's all from Mr. Fudetani. I'd like to express our massive, massive thanks for coming to this. I know you're very, very busy. とっても忙しいとわかりますので、本当にありがとうございます。
どうもありがとうございます。
Okay, next, we're going for a quick tour around the house. Give me 1 minute to prepare and we'll get on our way. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the demonstration of taisha-ryu and jigen-ryu swordsmanship. Now, for the next part of the tour, we're going to take a walk around the house lived in by the Shimazu family and see how a lord of this feudal clan would have lived his daily life. So the Shimazu clan, as you know, Toyohisa died on the Battle of Sekigahara, protecting his uncle Yoshihiro so he could escape from the battlefield and come all the way back to here, Kagoshima. This house and gardens was actually built in 1658 by Yoshihiro's grandson, Mitsuhisa, and it's a great example of a feudal lord's house and gardens. The room we're in now is actually called Ekkenoma, and it's the main reception room in the house where people would have met with the lord. As you can see here, we've got his zabuton, his cushion set up, and a little armrest here and a bell to call servants if he needs them. Also, if we look down on the tatami mats on the floor, you can see this pattern. This is called korai-beri, and it's the highest status kind of decoration on these tatami mats. So if you see this in a house or a temple or something in Japan, it means that it's a room for a very important person. Finally, up here we've got a kind of chandelier, a light, and you can see the Shimazu family crest is actually engraved into the light shades as well. So this was ordered from London in the 1800s and powered by hydroelectricity. So the Shimazu were always into new inventions, new technology, and importing foreign culture as well. Okay, let's go and have a look around the rest of the house. Originally, the house was 75 rooms big, with 130 staff serving full time. Now there are only 25 rooms left, and we're going to go and have a look around them and see how the lords of the Shimazu family live their daily life. So if you'd like to follow me, we'll go on to the next room. Okay, we're going to head outside, and we should be able to see, just across the bay there, a nice view of the volcano Sakurajima and Kagoshima Bay in front of us as well. Sakurajima actually erupts quite often. When it's very active, it can be over 600 or 700 times a year, but it's been quite quiet at the moment. So this is actually something called a shakketei, a borrowed scenery garden. So what they do is borrow the background scenery of Sakurajima and the bay in front and incorporate it as part of the gardens themselves. So this is my lake over here, and this is a hill in my garden. You know, it's that kind of image. So the room we're in now is actually the study, and this is where the Lord would spend most of his day working on paperwork or something like that, with obviously a great view of the gardens outside. So probably sitting here, you know, at his desk, doing some important documents or something like that. One thing about this room is it's got some great decorations up there. These are called kugi kakushi, and they actually hide the nails that join these beams and pillars together. These are actually Sakurajima daikon, which is a kind of giant radish which grows on the volcano over there. And they're made from porcelain, so a nice little decorative touch there as well. Right, we're going to go on to the next room. But before we go back inside again, you'll notice over here we've got a kind of octagonal little pond thing. So this is actually a part of a set of two. This one is popping out of the ground, and there's one further in the house that's sunken down, and they represent yin and yang. And the idea is that it draws kind of good spiritual energy into the middle of the house. So this is kind of a touch from Chinese culture. And it shows that the Shimazu family, through Okinawa, actually traded with China all throughout the Edo period. So they weren't closed off to the rest of the world. They were very involved in internationalization and the importation of foreign culture. Okay, let's go in the next room. This is the dressing room, which is where the Lord would get dressed into his kimono, have his hair neatly arranged, and also brush his teeth as well. Apparently they used to brush their teeth with crushed shells, which doesn't sound particularly healthy, but apparently it worked for them, so there you go. You've got to be a good-looking samurai. Okay, we're going to go through to the next room, which is the bathroom. So if you follow me through here, you can see we have this bathroom here with a wide kind of wooden deck and a smallish bath as well. What would happen here is the Lord would go in and servants would take his kimono off for him and wash his body before he got into the bath here to relax. So this was only used by the Lord. His wife and family had to use a different bathroom elsewhere in the house. There's actually no onsen here as well. So when they wanted to have an onsen, they used to bring water from the volcano at Sakurajima all the way over here and heat it up again before getting in the bath. Finally, over here is the toilet. So I don't know if you can see, but at the front here we've got a toilet for doing a wee-in, doing a number one, I guess, with some cedar leaves in to take away the smell. And in the background, you can see, in the back there, you can see there's a hole in the floor almost. Now this is for doing a poo-in, and it actually has a drawer underneath which slides out, and the Lord's doctors would check the condition of his stools every day to see how healthy he was. So quite a difficult life being a Lord there as well. Okay, we're going to go on and have a look at his bedroom, which is just over here. Konnichiwa. So this is the Lord's bedroom. As you can see, we've got a futon laid out here and a nice door in the background there with cherry blossoms on it. This room has actually got different kind of kugikakshi on the walls here. So these are bats, as you can see. So this is a good luck symbol from China. In Chinese, I believe it's pianfu, I'm not quite sure. But apparently that means to bring luck. So the Shimazu family like this symbol of bats in their household to bring them good luck. Okay, next room is over here. So this is a welcome room which was used for receiving gifts from different branches of the Shimazu family and from different families to inspect the gifts before putting them in their various residences around Japan. So this is actually used a bit later on in the history of the Shimazu family, and as you can see on the table here, we've got a picture of Shimazu Tadayoshi, who was the last lord of the Satsuma domain, the 29th head of the family. And he was a very traditional man. When Japan was modernizing around him, he still wore his kimono and he still had his chonmage, his top knot. So he wanted to preserve the traditions of the past, and he did so right here in the house. Okay, let's have a walk round and check out the inner garden. So here we've got a rather attractive little secret garden in the middle of the house. Obviously this would have just been seen by the Lord and his family and not the kind of regular people of Kagoshima. In the middle of the pond there we've got the sunken octagon I mentioned before, which brings in this kind of good energy from the outside. And actually interestingly, between these two octagons, exactly in the middle is where the Lord's bedroom is. So he's in the most, the best place to receive all this good energy. So it's great here with the sound of the water to relax it. Yeah, very relaxing. Okay, last place we're going to go to is just through here, and we're going to see some of the gifts that the Shimazu family sent to dignitaries abroad. So Sengan-en was actually visited by the royal families of several countries. Edward VIII from the UK came here in 1922. And in the late 1800s, Nicholas II of Russia, who was the final Tsar of Russia, actually visited Sengan-en. So these two vases here were presented to Nicholas when he was coronated as the emperor, as the Tsar of Russia, by the Shimazu family. So these are replicas, but the originals are in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. Now, interestingly, in Drifters, Anastasia, Nicholas's daughter, appears in the manga, and she mentions that the Shimazu family and Russia had some kind of battle, but she wasn't quite sure what it was. So this is relating to the Russo-Japanese War and Togo Heihachiro, the admiral who fought against Russia in that conflict. Okay, actually there's one more thing I'd like to show you before we finish this section of the tour. So if you want to follow me, there's an extra surprise we have lined up here. Just around the corner here. All right. So last year there was a display called Saburao held in Japan and also in Italy, abroad as well. Saburao is the root word from samurai. So samurai comes from the word saburao, and saburao means to serve. So this exhibition was a combination of the kind of culture of the samurai, traditional martial arts, and also manga and anime as well. So we'll just have a quick look around a few of the exhibitions that they brought down from the Saburao event. First here we've got a picture of Shimadzu Toyohisa from Drifters. So this is an original drawing done for the Saburao event. As you can see, he's drawing his sword there, nice and cool, very good. And next to him we also have a picture from Vagabond. So this is by Inoue-san, who drew Vagabond, and it's a picture of Miyamoto Musashi from that particular manga. Also we have a few exhibitions around here, some calligraphy. So Saburao here in Romaji in English text. And then here we have, says samurai is what most people would read it as, but we've got okurigana at the bottom here, so it's saburao is what it says. So yeah, samurai, the root word for samurai here. And then we've got Drifters. So we've got three characters from Drifters here with the dates that they were taken from and brought into the alternative dimension. And actually in the manga Drifters, Shimadzu Toyohisa says he uses a style of swordsmanship called taisha-ryu, which we saw earlier on. And this calligraphy here is talking about Drifters and also Hyoho Taisharyu, which is the actual name of the school. So this is Yamamoto Shihan, who's the teacher of Taisharyu, who you saw performing before. So he's actually been transformed into a character from a manga as well. We also have this picture here by Okadaya Tetsuzo. This is a samurai from his manga series Mujin. And as you can see, he's got a rather fancy purple handle on his sword there. And he's cutting down towards the ground, looking rather fierce. And finally, we have a piece of artwork here which is saying Kumamoto Oenja. So it's like supporting Kumamoto. This is after the recent disasters that have happened in that prefecture. So flooding, earthquakes. They've been very unlucky in recent years. And are working very, very hard to restore things like Kumamoto Castle and also several shrines and other properties around the prefecture. So they actually have a campaign to collect money to rescue a collection of swords from a shrine in Kumamoto that were damaged in the recent flooding. So we can send a link to that later on. Okay, right, let's go to the main part of this tour, the Drifters original artwork virtual tour. Okay, fans of Drifters, this is the part you've been waiting for, the display of original artwork by series creator Kouta Hirano. We have over 60 hand-drawn panels by Hirano-san on display today. showing some of the highlights of the series. Now over to Iwakawa Takuo for the best picks from the display. First, I'll just explain quickly about Shimadzu Toyohisa. So Toyohisa was a 16th century samurai warrior who assisted the Shimazu clan in taking over the whole of Kyushu and participated on the losing side of the Battle of Sekigahara, where he was killed at the age of 30, allowing his uncle Yoshihiro to escape. And it said he was a very good-looking chap, and he's the hero of Drifters. Iwagawa-san, この展示も大変ですよね。こういうことをセッティングするとか。
そうですね。2015年から今4回目、僕が主催するのがあるんですけれども、毎回腰が痛いんです。
なるほど。So he said this is the fourth time they've actually put this display on here. It's got bigger each time, and now he's got kind of backache because it's a lot of work to get set up. So, どういうなんか出会いですか、ドリフターズと。
ドリフターズというのが、島津の今から400年前の島津家の人物を取り上げているというのが、衝撃だったんですね。それが理由としては、もう鹿児島の歴史というと、150年前の幕末から有名だったんです。その中で400年前、少し時代が変わっている人物をわざわざ漫画の主人公にしている。しかも鹿児島といわば縁もゆかりもない漫画家の書かれているので、まずはその衝撃から出会い。
So I asked why he was interested in the manga originally and Drifters originally. He's a historian who's written a lot of work about the history of this region. And he told me that the thing that attracted him to Drifters originally is that because a manga artist who isn't related to Kagoshima in any way, Hirano-san is not from this area, he's from a different part of Japan, was attracted to a historical figure from 400 years ago, Shimadzu Toyohisa, and combined that with different time periods with the Bakumatsu, the late 1800s, and other time zones as well. And he found that extremely interesting, and that's why he kind of started to get into Drifters originally. Okay. じゃあ、今日の原画ですが、ちょっと何枚かちょっと紹介お願いできますでしょうか。
了解です。で、全体としては、今、宣言では67点展示をしています。特に、私がセレクトして、特に、鹿児島とつながりがあったり、メッセージ性の強いものをセレクトしている形です。
So there are 67 panels in total. All of them are handpicked by Takuo from the collection over at Shonen-ga and he's particularly picked scenes that have relevance to Kagoshima, the history of the Shimazu family, or another meaning connected to them as well.
では、実際にいくつか紹介していきたいと思います。多分、出ますかね、でっかいのが。
大丈夫です。
では、一つ目、こちらの方ですね。いわば、第1話、関ヶ原の戦い、いわば史実の島津宗久の活躍を紹介している回のところの原画です。
So this is from episode 1. It shows the Battle of Sekigahara and Toyohisa appearing on the battlefield as well.
で、ご承知の方多いかと思いますけれども、原画というのは実際漫画になるのよりも、2倍近いサイズで描いてあるのが特徴ですね。
So I guess most of you probably know this already, but the actual genga, the original art pieces, are actually more than double the size of the manga that appears in the comic.
だからこそ、原画を通してどれだけ作者の平野先生が細かい作業をしているのか、どんだけこだわっているのかというのを垣間見ることができるんです。
So the good thing about looking at the original artwork is that you can see how detailed the drawings that Hirano Sensei did are up close, and how much attention and care is paid to creating this world.
で、実際にこちらの作品の方、画面に3つ小回りしていますけれども、平野先生の一つの特徴かなと思われるのが、セリフのところ、セリフが続くところはなるだけ小さくあえてコマを振っているというのがあると思います。
So there are 3 panels available on this slide here, and Hirano Sensei's, one of his particular features is using a small amount of space for the speech bubbles as well, and lining them on either side too.
一方でバシッとポーズがかっこいいとか、そのかっこよさを決めるところは1枚大きな絵を描く。1ページに丸々っていうような形で描くのが、比較として分かるかと思います。
So another one of his features is using like a whole page for a cool pose, or a cool strike from a sword or something like that, to express how cool that particular character is.
でここ実際に3つ分かれていますが、ここは関ヶ原の戦い。今から400年前、実際戦いがあった際に、島津家の主、島津家の代表であった島津義弘を敵の中央から退却させるために、豊久が身代わりとなる。それを象徴的に語っている。豊久が自ら命を賭して、島津の代表を守ろうとしているのを語っているところになります。
So this is a scene from the Battle of Sekigahara. As you may know, it's from about 400 years ago. It's one of the largest battles in samurai history. And Shimadzu Yoshihiro, the lord of the Shimazu, was trying to escape from the battlefield. And Shimadzu Toyohisa, his nephew, sacrificed his own life in order to let his uncle escape.
実際にこの足軽、鉄砲を持っているところのイラストとか見てみますと、トーンってシールですね、点々を貼っている。そのところに、黒く、墨を塗っている形なんですけれども、実際の足軽の鎧などを元にですね、書かれているんだなっていうのが、これを原画を見ると改めて感じるわけです。
So when he looks at the original drawings here, you see these ashigaru in the middle, these low-ranking soldiers with their rifles, and you can see the tones in the background, the kind of dot effect that's used in manga to create shading. It's very nicely drawn on there as well. And it's a real good representation of ashigaru armor of that period.
じゃあ次の方に行きましょう。
Okay, let's move on to the next slide.
次はどこだったかな？
どこだったかな？
こちらの方を紹介させていただきます。
Okay, I'd like to just introduce this one there first before you move on to the next one.
先ほどと比べると2コマで1コマが小さくてその下の方が大きくなっているのが特徴として分かりますね。
Okay, so this slide you can see it's got a smaller one at the top and a larger frame at the bottom.
なので、これがいわば豊久が、この下のコマが非常に大きく動いている。かっこよく動いているのを、多分より見せるためにこのようなコマの配置にしているのではないかと考えられます。
So his layout is probably chosen in this way to show, the cool kind of movement that Shimadzu Toyohisa is doing here. It's very energetic and very dynamic scene as well.
そしてここの書いてあるゾン。擬音語。
Okay. So there's a giongo as well here, the onomatopoeic sounds used in Japanese, and it says zon.
最近もさまざまな漫画作品で、こういったオノマトペ、擬音語が使われますけれども、特徴的な擬音語をなおかつダイナミックにかっこよく入れるというのも特徴、平野先生の特徴かと思います。
So one of the special features about Hirano Sensei's artwork is this use of giongo, dynamic words like this in Japanese across the page. Okay. All right, let's have a look at the next slide. Yeah, I think so.
こちらの方。実際、真実の関ヶ原の戦いではですね、島津は後に江戸幕府を作る徳川家康と激しい戦いを行うわけです。
So this is a scene where Shimadzu Toyohisa is fighting against, is this Inaomasa?
Inaomasa.
Okay, so Inaomasa, who was one of the lords below Tokugawa Ieyasu, who was the general on the opposing side at Sekigahara.
実際、史実では豊久が撃ったのではなく、別の島津の家臣がを狙撃したという話があるんですが、ここはより魅力的に描くために、そのようなキャスティングにしてるんだと思います。
So actually, what really happened at the Battle of Sekigahara is somebody else from the Shimazu army, a fairly minor samurai, managed to shoot Inaomasa off his horse. It wasn't Toyohisa, but for the purposes of the manga, this makes a very, very dramatic scene and looks very, very cool as well.
特に馬のところとか見ていただきますと、かなり細かい書き込みをしてるんです。で、馬の腹のところとか見ると真っ黒なんですけれども、全部手書きで書いてるんですね。で、グラデーションを手書きで作ってる、網網を手書きで書いてるというのも、細かい作業をしていることが伺えます。
If you look at the horse's belly in particular and the movement of the horse, you can see some really detailed lines around the underside. It's almost completely black on the underbelly as well. So this is a particularly nice feature of this artwork as well. これは実際刺されてる槍で。
これは鉄砲で撃ってる感じです。至近距離で鉄砲で撃ってる。で、豊久は槍で刺される。
So this is where Toyohisa is getting stabbed by the enemy spears as well. これ実際あったんですか？
後ほど鎧の紹介しますけれども、その豊久の鎧の中にたくさん槍の跡があったりするので、豊久はかなりの負傷をしていたことが、その鎧から垣間見ることができます。
So we're going to see Toyohisa's actual armor later on. There are actually many, many holes in it made by spears. So this is quite realistic as to the way that he actually managed to get killed. So, next.
こちらはですね、主要人物の一人、織田信長を描いたものですね。
Okay, so this is a scene of Oda Nobunaga.
で、本能寺の変、 1500年代の日本では有名な戦国武将でございますが、それもまた漫画の中に出てきます。
So he's famous for, you know, the Honnoji incident. He's a, you know, 15th century, 16th century samurai lord who was extremely famous.
彼が鉄砲を日本では効率的に使い始めた人物の一人ということもあるので、作中では鉄砲をたくさん使うように描かれてますね。
So he's quite famous for his use of rifles, not only on the battlefield. So he's one of the lords who actively brought guns onto the battlefield and used them very, very effectively. So his character in Drifters is using a matchlock rifle as well.
で、これがまた原画の魅力の一つで挙げられるのが、単行本化された時のコマの表現と原画のコマが違うことです。
Okay. So you'll know the actual comic book version is slightly different. The words are actually printed on here. When Hirano Sensei actually makes his original art, he kind of just puts in random comments that he's thought of at the time on the side there as well. So there are lots of jokes and little in-jokes for manga fans that can come and see these Genga artwork displays as well.
例えば平野先生の当時のこれを書いた頃のご自身のトレンドとか、そこら辺のちょっとぼやきなのか、そういったのを盛り込んでいるので、平野先生の絵はプライベートなところをちょっと垣間見ることができますね。
So you can actually see the manga artist's kind of private side here as well, how he felt or how he was feeling when he was drawing this particular panel, and if he was in rather a comical mood or how things were going at the time. 何が書いてるんですかね。ヒゲバージョンの、
正直な話、ヒゲバージョンのアーカードと被ってね、俺。
だからその織田信長と思えばなんかヒゲのなんか髪が剃ったっていうような。
はい、なんですけれども、そういうのとキャラクター的にこのが被ってねっていうのを書いてるわけですよね。
なるほど。So as a little joke he's put in, I don't really look much like the traditional version of Oda Nobunaga that people know, with a kind of little beard and his hair shaved back like this. Instead, he's got kind of long flowing locks. It looks kind of cool as well. So a little joke there for insiders who know a little bit about Japanese history as well. Okay, should we go on to the next scene?
その次はこちらですね。こうちょっと下の方に展示してますけれども。
All right.
こちらロシアのロマノフ王家の末娘、アナスタシアを描いている本です。
Okay, so this is Anastasia Romanov from the Romanov family.
いわゆるこの作品の中では古今東西のさまざまな歴史上の人物が争うというのが舞台設定のストーリーの根幹です。
So one of the features about Drifters is that many historical characters from different time periods all come together in an alternate dimension, and this is one of the characters we can enjoy in this world.
その中でアナスタシアというのは敵方、エンズと呼ばれる敵方で登場します。
So Anastasia is actually on the opposing side to the Drifters, the Ends, and she kind of leads the enemies on that side.
で、アナスタシアが実際生きてたらみたいな感じだったりする形でちょっと大人めな形で描かれているのかなと思います。
So, well, if Anastasia had actually lived, this is a kind of imagination of what she might have looked like, although slightly oriented towards the adult tastes, if you will.
で、この漫画の中ではアナスタシアは島津を鹿児島を憎んでいるような感じのニュアンスで描かれているんですね。
So it's written as if Anastasia kind of really doesn't really like Shimazu and the Kagoshima region as well.
その理由としては日露戦争でいわば日本とロシアの戦いの時に、陸軍も海軍も当時薩摩鹿児島出身者が中心となってロシアと戦った。だからこそ、鹿児島が憎い、そして鹿児島を治めた島津が憎いというようなニュアンスなんだと思います。
Okay, so we saw the two vases before given to Nikolai II of Russia, and his daughter Anastasia is actually featured in Drifters, as we can see here. And the reason she doesn't like Kagoshima is because of the Russo-Japanese War, which happened, and one of the leaders of that Russo-Japanese War, one of the top admirals in charge, was Togo Hayatiro from right here in Kagoshima.
ただこの千賀の5点に飾られているのがニコライ2世にプレゼントした壺の複製であるように、実は ロマノフ王家、といいますか、ニコライ2世と島津家はかなり友好関係だったんですね。
So actually, we have two vases we saw before, which are replicas of vases given to Nicholas II of Russia when he was crowned the Tsar. And the Shimazu family and the Romanov family actually had a fairly good relationship, which may come as a surprise considering the history that comes afterwards.
実際100年ほど前の島津家のお殿様が亡くなった時に、唯一海外ではロシアから弔電が来ていたりするというのもあります。実際に島津家の博物館に残っています。
So when the head of the Shimazu family died, the only greeting or letter of remorse or whatever that came was from abroad, was from Russia, and we actually still have it in our museum across the road.
まあそういうふうに思うと、今後このアナスタシアが島津豊久とどのようにな関係で描かれるのかっていうのを、まあいろいろと妄想したり想像してみたくなるものですね。
So for Iwakawa, knowing this historical background gives a whole new layer of imagination to how Anastasia Romanov thinks of Shimadzu Toyohisa and their relationship in the comic series. Okay, so let's look at the next move, next panel.
次はどこでしたかね。はい、こちらは幕末、今から150年前の日本の侍、土方歳三と島津豊久とのいわば戦いの冒頭を描いたところです。
Okay, so this is the fight scene between Hijikata Toshizo and Shimazu Toyohisa. So Hijikata, who was Hijikata? 誰だ？どんな人物ですか？
幕末、いわば江戸幕府を守っていた新選組という組織のナンバー2、副長を務めた人です。
So he was the deputy leader of the Shinsengumi, which is basically the Tokugawa's secret police force tasked with protecting the Tokugawa shogun.
で、最後まで幕府を支えて、でそのまま北海道に旧幕府の家臣とともに逃れて、で北海道でも戦った、北の果てでも戦った。で最終的には薩摩藩、島津家を中心とした新政府軍に敗れるというのが、彼の支持するの生涯となります。
So Hijikata Toshizo finished fighting against the battle to restore to prevent the Tokugawa shogunate from being removed. And then actually went up to Hokkaido afterwards and continued fighting as well.
そういったこともあって、この土方、このコマではですね、真っ黒に顔を塗りつぶした描かれている。
So we can see from the artwork here that his face is completely covered in black ink.
それだけ土方がどういうふうに豊久を持っているのか、それをですね、想像することができるような描き方になっているのではないかと。
これ初めて登場するシーン。
初めてではないけれども、豊久と実際に顔を合わせる初めてですね。
So this is the first time that Hijikata Toshizo actually meets Toyohisa in the manga. It's not the first time he appears, it's the first time he meets him. And because his face is completely covered in black ink, we can't quite see his expression the first time he looks at this prominent member of the Shimazu clan and how he might feel about him as well.
で、またここのコマの擬音語を見ると、漢字の土に点々、土方との土の土ですね、に点々で、ドッですね。
Okay, so if we look at the Giongo, the onomatopoeia on this slide as well, again, in kind of Hirano Sensei's style, it's right there on the frame, very, very prominent. And it's Hijikata Toshizo's Ji Tsuchi, the kanji, it means earth. And then it's got two dakon, okay. On the side of it as well, so it says Do. So he's coming right out of the frame with some real impact as well.
非常にインパクトがあって、なおかつまがまがしい感じなんですけれども、この実際の単行本では島津十二、その家紋を決して忘れたことはないというので、島津に対して非常に強い思いを持っていることを強調したページになっているんですね。
So in the manga it says, "Oh, the Shimazu cross, I'll never forget that kamon, that family crest." So Hijikata looks at Toyohisa's clothing and sees the family crest, and he has some real anger towards him.
しかし、原画を見てみると違う文章が書かれています。
But on the original artwork, there's a slightly different comment.
銀玉の実写版どうなるんだろうね。
その写真ですよね。
はい、いわば銀玉というのが、漫画、アニメの漫画の銀玉というのがあって、それがいわば実写で、実際の俳優、女優が演じた映画を作る。それがどんな風な作品になるんだろうねっていう、全然土方歳三ともドリフターズも関係ないセリフをあえて置いてるんです。
なるほど。So he's actually put a comment about something completely and utterly different on here, which is rather hard to explain in a short time, so I'll have to skip it. If anybody wants to know, I'll send it in the chat later on.
じゃあちょっとじゃあこちらの方行きましょう。ここですね、この参考割りなので、比較的、文章が多い。そのいわば文章でそのページの魅力を作ろうとしているものだと私は考えます。
So this particular slide has quite a lot of text on it, which is unusual for this series, I suppose. So he's trying to create a particular story with this set of 3 slides.
で、この中で、いわば真っ暗の中で白い吹き出し。で、真っ暗い中に丸十字。そして豊久がにやりと笑う。そういったコマの作り方です。
So first we've got a fully black slide, and then next we have the Maruju family crest of the Shimazu family, and finally Toyohisa appears smiling wildly right at the reader.
で、これ見ますと黒いところも実は見えますかね、画像で。結構実際平野先生が真っ黒に丁寧に一個一個塗りつぶしている、筆のタッチとかが見えてくるのではないでしょうか。
Okay, I don't know if you can see quite on here. It's not actually a printed background. It's very, very carefully drawn on and filled in completely by brush.
で、この実はページは私の中で一番、歴史をの研究をしている人間としては重たい、メッセージ性の強いページだと思うんです。
なるほど。So as a historian, this actually for me is the whole within this whole collection is the most meaningful slide in the collection.
実際に単行本のところを見ると、最初は、とても恨まれている。でその中で次のコマの中でさまざまな自らがの時代の合戦の島津の戦績を戦争での功績のところを一個一個書いて名前を出していく。そして最後のところで見るとその相手、この場合は相手は土方歳三です。土方歳三の姿を見ると豊久の時代とは異なる。すなわち豊久の子孫が何かを行っていて、そのいわば島津の子孫たちが何かしら恨まれるようなでかいことをやっているっていうふうに豊久が感づくという。
Okay, yeah. All right. So this is a very interesting slide. At the first comment, we've got this guy's looking at me, this kind of thing. And then the second slide, he wonders why, Hijikata Toshida might hate him so much. So he's thinking about all the previous battles that the Shimazu family have fought and the enemies they've made throughout them. So here we've got Hizakibara, we've got Mimikawa. These are all famous battles that the Shimazu fought very bravely and often won. And then Toyohisa realizes from his clothes, maybe he's not from that particular age, he's from a different age. And then he thinks, perhaps my descendants did something to you. So maybe my descendants are now like a huge warrior family as well. And that's actually the Shimazu家まだ存在してますよね。
ですね。今は33代がこのSengan-enを運営している会社の社長であったりしますし、鎌倉時代、平安時代の末からので800年以上の歴史があり、今も続いています。
So the Shimazu family actually continued to this day. So the CEO of our company, Shimazu Limited, is the 33rd generation head of the family. So they've been in this region for over 800 years, continuing to today as well. So Toyohisa's imagination about what his family did in the future as well might be true.
では豊久というのは今から400年前の人物。で400年前の人物、戦国時代にさまざまな歴史の爪痕を残しただけじゃなくて、150年前、いわばこの豊久が知るべきもない時代にも爪痕を残している。さまざまな時代で鹿児島の島津が活躍しているのを古の人物が気づくというのは非常にメッセージ性の強い。そして島津の鹿児島の歴史の奥深さを象徴するページだと思います。
So this one slide shows the huge depth of history here in Kagoshima, especially with the Shimazu family. We've got a person from 400 years ago, a member of the Shimazu clan from 400 years ago, who's meeting somebody from 150 years ago and imagining what his family would be like then as well. So these layers all working together are super interesting for a historian who knows about each of these battles. And if you're a fan of drifters, I really highly recommend looking into these battles as well, because there's some great stories there too. Okay.
じゃあ次のページを見ましょうか。次はどちらが出てくるんだったかな。あ、こちらですね。はい。こちらは実際に、異世界においてドラゴンと今から800年ほど前の日本の武士、那須与一が戦っているページです。
Okay, so this is obviously isekai genre, drifters, so it's set in a fantasy alternative universe. And this is a warrior from around 800 years ago called Nasu no Yoichi, firing his arrow at the dragon.
で、那須与一というのは800年前の日本における弓の名人というふうに今も語り継がれる人です。
So Nasu no Yoichi is still known in Japan today as somebody who is a very, very talented archer.
で、これを見てますと3つのコマに分かれていますが、この真ん中のコマを見ていきますと、1つ目、矢を、そして2つ目の矢、3つ目の矢。いわばここのページの中に同じところに那須与一が3本連続で、当てているというふうに、描かれているわけなんです。
So you can see from this particular slide that Nasu no Yoichi is firing arrows at the dragon, and he actually hits exactly the same place 3 times, splitting his own arrow down the middle each time.
やっぱ設定上、ドラゴンの非常に厚い皮膚を貫くために同じところに連続で全く同じように矢を打っていく。そのいわば那須与一の弓のテクニックを見せる、コマですね。
So to think about the situation in this particular slide, the dragon's got very, very thick skin, very scaly skin. Nasu no Yoichi's arrows won't pierce it, so he has to fire into the same place exactly over and over again to pierce it and to injure and kill the dragon as well. So it shows his immense level of archery.
このような描き方で、やっぱ那須与一の、歴史上の人物の魅力、テクニックというのを紹介していたりする。
実際の人物はこういうような、なんていうか話がありますよね。
実際に、かなり遠く離れたところの扇のをいて、で敵も味方も非常に喝采を上げた。そういったのが平家物語などには出てくるわけです。
So Nasu no Yoichi is mentioned in Heike Monogatari and other kind of works like that for shooting a fan off the top of a pole, which was perched on top of a boat in front of both enemies and allies while riding his horse in the sea. So he was very, very skilled at archery and impressed both sides when he did that. Okay, should we look at it?
こちらまでいいですか？その1個前の実はページなんですけども、これでこのたくさん密集した線、このいわゆる集中線と呼ばれるもの、これが平野先生の直筆のものというので、見えるでしょうか
？So if you look on the slide before here, so we don't have a scan of it, I don't think, but we can see Hirano Sensei's hand-drawn lines here, showing the direction of the arrow flying as well. So these aren't something that's been printed on, they're all hand-painted.
この矢印がやっぱ弓の流れであって、この集中線によってその弓がいかに速く飛んでいるのかというのを見せるんですけど、これを一個一個手書きで書いている。これをもうじっくり見ることができるのもこの原画だからこその特徴です。
So the good thing about looking at the original artwork in person is you can see the arrow flying through the air here, and also these shuchusen, these lines as well, representing the speed, and really, really see the detail of each one being hand drawn.
で多くの作品の場合ですと、このように直線を一箇所に集める集中線っていうのが多いんですが、これ曲線なんですね。曲線を一つに集める。これいわば物差しでこう測っていくんじゃなくて、ハンズフリーで手書きでシュッてやっていくっていうので、もう彼の本当にテクニックっていうのが凝縮されるものだと思います。
So often you see straight lines like this in manga, concentrating on something. These upper frame actually, the lines are curved, so they're all drawn freehand, and it shows the immense technique that Hirano Sensei has.
じゃあ次はこちらです、
ね。Okay, next. Okay.
はい。下がっていきましょうか。はい、こちらの方はですね、ここら辺になるともうアニメ化まだされてないところの話なんですけれども。
So this is a slide that's not been made into anime yet. It's just in the manga version.
こちらがその異世界において島津豊久が捨てがまりを行うとする。いわば 史実でいわば自分の味方を生き延び出せるために最後まで戦場に残り、敵に突進していった。それを異世界でも同じようにやる。それを高らかに宣言するページです。
So this is a scene where Shimadzu Toyohisa is in the Isekai, the alternative universe, and he's about to start a plan to do Stegamari, which is what he actually did at the Battle of Sekigahara to allow his allies to escape, to throw his own life away in order for the allies to move ahead.
だからその死ぬかもしれない。てか、ほぼ死ぬであろうという戦略であるにもかかわらず、にやりと口が、口角が上がっている。なおかつ、あえて平野先生は片目だけ、そのギラッとしたのを描いて、もう片目はあえて、もう隠してるんですよね。歌舞伎じゃないですけれども、目や口の表情で、その豊久の決意というのを、もう表していると言えるかと思います。
So this particular slide, it looks like Toyohisa is, well, he's almost definitely going to die. Plan he's come up with to escape from the battlefield, but he's actually smiling quite wildly here as he's about to engage with the enemy. And you can see he's got one eye covered up as well and just one eye revealed. So it's almost like a kabuki kind of pose here before he moves out into the battlefield.
そしてその胸元に、描かれるのが島津の十字の家紋。
So you can see the Maruju Kamon, the Juji Kamon of the family crest of the Shimazu here as well.
やっぱその敵中突破、捨てがまりというのがやっぱ島津の精神を表している。だからこそ、あえてここに堂々と丸十が見えるような構図で描いているのではないかなと私は考えます。
So this is very much the mentality of the Shimazu clan to go forward and attack and to keep challenging things and go forward and forward and forward. And that's why the Shimazu family crest is prominently displayed here.
本当、原画については他に様々あって一個一個説明していくと、日本時間でえらいことになるので、原画についてはこの辺りで終わらせるからしていいですかね。
Okay, so if we actually continue to display and describe all of the scenes we have here, it'd take a long, long time. And unfortunately, we're almost out of time, so we'll have to stop here. We've got a little bit of time for some questions, if anybody has them. We're going to have a quick look first, though, at Shimadzu Toyohisa's actual armor. Oh, first we'll look over here. Yeah.
こちらの掛け軸か。平野浩太先生に、この仙岩園で初めて原画展を描いた2017年に描いていただいたサイン色紙になります。
Okay, so this is a original slide that was drawn by Kouta Hirano sensei for the first display of Drifters manga here at Sengan-en.
島津様ありがとうございましたというので、やはり作者の平野先生も島津のことを思ってくださってるんだというので、改めて私ども非常に感謝したようなしたことを今も記憶しています。
わかりました。So he's written, Shimazu-sama, ありがとうございました。Thank you very much, Mr. Shimazu, for allowing us to do this demonstration here. So for Iwagawa here, who put this display on, it's a very, very important slide and very, very dear to him. Okay.
はい、その隣に掲げているのが島津豊久の鎧のレプリカです。
Okay, so this is a replica of the armor that Shimadzu Toyohisa would have actually worn at the Battle of Sekigahara.
実際は兜とか小手、腕のところとかは残ってはいないで、胴のところとこの肩のところですね、だけなんですけれども、実際こういうふうな小手や兜だったんじゃないのかなというので、残りの部分はイメージ再現しています。
So the helmet and also the sode, the sleeve parts here, are no longer, unfortunately, with us. We don't have those, but we do have the dole, this chest armor, and the shoulder pads as well in our museum collection. So this armor is based on those. The helmet is recreated from designs from another helmet of that period, so it's very likely it would have been something along these lines.
で、実際にその島津家の博物館に残っている鎧が紺色のこのような鎧なんです。けれども、漫画のドリフターズでは赤い衣装なんですね。
So in the manga version of Drifters, Shimadzu Toyohisa wears a red outfit, a kind of red suit of armor. But here, the real one, we can actually see it's a kind of navy blue, a dark blue. And we also have a picture of the original armor from the museum as well. I think we can show you.
なので実際にその現物やこれを見たお客様の中で、豊久の鎧が赤くないっていうふうに驚かれる方が多いです。
So a lot of people a lot of people are surprised that Toyohisa's actual armor isn't red as it is in the manga, and it's blue like this. So we're actually looking at the original armor now. So, 岩川さん、ちょっと
実際にですね、この鎧、現物を見ていただきますと、いくつかほつれがあったり、ボサボサってしているのがあるんです。それが鎧の中で槍に刺された跡だったりします。
So if we actually look at the real Yoroi up close and in person, we can see that, can you go down a bit there? Just shows the bottom as well. There are some holes in the armor which are caused by being pierced by a spear. Down, can you go right down to the bottom of the picture?
もうちょっと下の方に行くと、刀で切られた後もちょろっと、これでは見づらいですかね、もあったりします。いわば、この鎧というのが戦場で槍に刺されたり、刀で切られたりしながらも使われたものというのが伺えるわけです。
So we can actually see, if we look up close, it's a little bit hard to see on the screen here, but there are actually sword cuts in the tare, the bottom part of the armor as well. And you can see that the person wearing Toyohisa was really done in on the battlefield there.
複製なんでその傷は再現してないんですけどね。
So on the actual reproduction, we've not reproduced those wounds and the puncture wounds. Yeah.
ちなみにこの兜に関しましては、江戸時代などで島津家の人々が使っていたデザインを再現しています。
So this is a design that the Shimazu family used in the Edo period on the helmet here.
島津家は兜の上に狐をつけるのが特徴です。
So the Shimazu like to put foxes on top of their helmets.
で、狐は島津家では島津家の初代からたびたびこの島津の一族を守ってきた。そのような伝説があることから、兜の上に狐を飾ることで武運があるように、狐のご加護がありますように、そういった祈りが込められていると考えられます。
So over 800 years ago, the founder of the Shimazu family line was apparently helped by Inari, the fox, the god whose messenger is a fox, and thus, the Shimazu family like to put foxes on their armor as a symbol of good luck.
こんな感じ？あと、じゃあ、屏風いきます。
Alright. これ、丸10書いてるんですけど、当時は10字文ですか？
ですね。はい。実際は、漢数字の10があるだけなんですけど、複製の時には、やっぱ分かりやすく、そこだけはちょっとデフォルメしている形で、今の家紋に近い丸10にしていますね。
Okay, so just this part of the armor, they've actually changed. The original armor just had a cross. The original family crest was just a cross, and it's been changed out for this maruju, which is the circle with a cross, which is the Shimazu family used later on. So this is just so people can understand what it is, because many Japanese people now maybe not know that the original family crest was just a cross.
実際よくこの十字紋から丸字になったのがちょうど豊臣の時代ぐらいになります。で、日本に実際にヨーロッパの人々がやってくるようになった頃に、十字架だった。で、フランシスコ・ザビエルは十字架の家紋を胸につけている。いわばキリスト教の十字架を家紋にしているというので、キリスト教を信仰しているのではないかというふうに驚いた。そういった記録が残っていたりします。
So actually this maruju, the circle and crest, started being used around Toyohisa's time, and especially into the Edo period. When the first Europeans came to this area in Kagoshima, they assumed that the Shimazu family were Christians because obviously it's a cross shape, and then, friendly relations ensued for a little while until they realized that they were preaching different doctrines. Okay, right. We've got 5 minutes left, so we're going to have a quick question and answer session. If anybody has any questions, please put them into the chat window. And then after we finish today, I'll also be picking out 5 winners randomly by your names, and I'll be sending you a goodie bag full of Drifters stuff, Drifters goodies that Iwakawa here has picked and put together. So we'll do that after we finish today, just because of time constraints. So does anybody have any questions?
No.
No. Hold on. Okay, so actually, okay. Emily, yes. Okay, what's the armor made of? この鎧は何から作られてますか？
紐と革と鉄のこのちっちゃなチップ。
So there are small pieces of ironwork here that have been laced together with this blue lace. これは絹でしょうかね。
絹が多いですね。
So it's silk lace that's lacing this together, and it's also reinforced by leather as well at the back.
これはいわば弓矢との戦い、弓矢での戦いを想定して作られた古い形式の鎧になります。
So this is actually, even for the Battle of Sekigahara, an old type of armor. It was mainly designed to stop arrows piercing the body.
弓矢だったらこれで耐えられた。
So if this was an archer firing, it probably would have protected you quite well. 島津家はなんか自分の時代より古い鎧を使ってたっていうのはあるんですか？
実際には奉納されている鎧とかを見ても結構もう一時代、二時代ぐらい古いのを使っている。それは一説によると昔からの鎌倉時代、平安末からの家柄であるというその誇りがあったからこそなのではないかとも言われていたりします。一つの。
So the Shimazu family displayed generally older armor and sometimes wore older armor as well than their present kind of generation to show, according to some sources, that they were an old historical family. Like we've got this huge lineage that goes on for hundreds of years. So in order to show that they wore kind of older armor styles than maybe with the newest thing going on. Any more questions? Okay. Oliver, yes. ドリフターズの一番好きなシーンはどこですか？
一つは先ほど紹介した土方と島津豊久が初めて会う。その中で豊久が自分が生きた後の時代にも島津が大きなことをやっている。いわば憎まれているというのは裏返せば誰かに憎まれるぐらい大きなことを自分の一族の子孫がやったことを気づく。これは非常に大きな展開だと思うので、僕はそれが一番好きです。あと個人的にはジャンヌ・ダルクが大好きです。
Okay, so he loves Joan of Arc personally, but his favorite scene is Hijikata Toshizo appearing with Shimadzu Toyohisa. So this is because even though he's hated by Hijikata Toshizo, Toshihisa kind of realizes that his family in the future have done something great as well, even though he doesn't really know what it is. So as a historian, especially a historian of the Shimazu family, that's very, very interesting for him. Okay, any more questions? Okay, short answers from now, Michikaku. So, Hendrik. Okay, 島津豊久は何センチと鎧着装しているときにはトイレは使いやすいですかっていう質問です。
実際の豊久はだいぶ小柄だったのではないかと。それが実際の鎧を見るとかなりもう女性、今でいうところの日本人の女性サイズかなっていうぐらいの大きさです。
So he was kind of a shortish fellow, actually, looking at the armor, the real armor now. It would be a kind of modern lady's size, he's saying, for a Japanese lady. So it's quite small. じゃあトイレは
今の鎧は、股が開いてます。
なるほど。
こう開くんですね、ここが。
なるほど。So he said the inner thighs are open, so it shouldn't be too hard if you really needed to go to get it out there. Thanks for that question, Hendrik. カメラ。
はい、カメラ。
Okay, so these animal decorations on the helmet, do they have any meanings and what do they matter for the rank? これは自分の自分のステータスとして殿様か家老とか変わりますか？こういうデコレーションっていうか前立て
を。島津の一族以外の島津家、島津の家臣で狐の前立ては私は見たことがありません。なので多分島津家じゃないと狐の前立ては使えなかったのかもしれません。
Okay, so you guys never seen this fox on anybody else's helmet apart from a member of the Shimazu family, even their warriors below them. So it's likely it was restricted just for members of the family themselves. And as we said before, this is a protective figure representing Inari, the god, the Shinto god. There. All right, any more questions? Last question. Okay, very last question from Spain. Okay, from Reima, the question is, in the manga, Toyohisa wears red. The original armor was blue. Is this for visual impact? もともとの鎧はこの紺色で、漫画で出てくるシーンは赤ですよね。なんでその色を描いた
でしょうか
という
って。
ことと、はい。インパクトのためにやってるんですか？
いい質問ですねって言ってまずは。
はい。That's a very good question, actually.
で実は150年ほど前の資料には、少女なので赤い、陣羽織を豊久が着てたっていうふうに、記録があったりするんです。ただ150年前なのでそれは史実かどうかはちょっと、結構不明瞭なところがあります。
はい、
でその赤い陣羽織を着ていたというのは後に歌で歌われるぐらい結構メジャーになったので、平野先生はドリフターズで豊久を描くにあたりその陣羽織の赤のを豊久のテーマカラーにしたのかもしれません。
なるほど。だからその陣羽織は豊久の
陣羽織。はい。
So there's a jinbaori, which is like a kind of half coat that was worn by samurai warriors that belonged to Toyohisa that was supposedly red. That became quite popular, and that's likely the inspiration that Hirano Sensei took for drawing the red clothing on Shimadzu Toyohisa in the manga series Drifters. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of the tour. We've actually got the names of the people here in this envelope. It's very small, so I'll get Tako to pick out 5 people. Just go 5.
Hey, one.
Randomly. 1.
Wow.
Okay, first one is Camila Cortea. Congratulations. Okay, there we go. Proof.
Hi. Next.
Next is Craig Kutil. Okay, congratulations, Craig.
Next.
We've got Christina Turner. Congratulations.
Next.
Okay, we've got Terry Lloyd. Congratulations.
The last.
And the last one.
Is it?
And the last one is Maria Balashova. Okay, so we will be sending a lovely goodie bag in the post to you in the next week or so. So look out for that. It might take a little while because of coronavirus, but we'll see. Hopefully it should be with you as soon as possible. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us for this virtual tour of the Drifters original art, the demonstration of jigen-ryu, taisha-ryu, the tour of the house, guidance by Iwakawa Takuo, tech setup by Mr. Mihara over here, who's set up all the Wi-Fi and everything for us. Also, Story Studios, we've got Josh on the camera here, who you've not seen yet. I don't know if you can spin it around or not. Maybe you can. And we've got Mitch back in headquarters as well, who's been controlling everything and directing us the whole time. Thank you very, very much for joining us, and I hope to see you at Sengan-en one day in the future. Okay, take care. Goodbye.
Bye.